And my last note before we get going, I'd like to just make, being that this is the last home game, just like to tell you how much I've appreciated, this group of seniors that are going out. A lot of these guys that are on the third coach, I can't even imagine that. During their time frame, going from Coach Mangino to Coach Gill to Coach Weis, and during your time, and the trials and tribulations they've been through, and gutting it out, and buying in, and there's two different ways as a coach you can approach guys when you're a new coach. And after we kind of cleaned house at the semester, and we started to move forward, and there's some coaches that kind of under the mentality like, well, wait till I get my guys in here. Well, these are my guys, and I'll be there for them forever, whatever they need from me, within reason. I'll be there for them, and I don't need to have recruited them, and I don't need to have coached them to respect them. And I hope that together with the coaches and the underclassmen and the fan base, I'm hoping we can provide enough inspiration and motivation to go ahead and knock off a tough Iowa State team, and let them have the last game here leave with a good taste in their mouth. That about wraps it up for today.
Coach, when did you first learn what this group of seniors was all about? And I mean, you mentioned to them that they should enjoy their Christmas break because it wasn't going to be pretty when they got back and all that stuff. I mean, how long did it take you to figure them out?
Probably when we came back from summer vacation. Because when you're with them, you can keep your foot on their neck the whole time. I mean, when once I got in here when recruiting was done, and you're around them all the time, it's a lot easier to monitor young men when you're around them all the time. It's totally different when you're not. So, now it's the month of July, and I'm vacationing with my family and spending quality time with my family. You're not really sure, even though Hosopple's back at the ranch, going through workouts, you really don't know what you're going to get. And when you come back, and every one of them looked better than, there wasn't one of them that didn't look better, than when I left. Now, they're not very good looking to start off with, but they all look better, when I came back. And that's usually the first major sign when you could see these guys want something good to happen.
How much easier does that make your job? I mean, any coach's job coming in, because obviously you could meet some confrontation there if these guys aren't ready to have a new guy.
I've really never really had much confrontation, Matt, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like college or pros, you'd be really surprised at the number of confrontations you have. There are very, very few. Usually everyone wants the same thing, and everyone has different approaches to how to do it, but there's very few times where there's players of confrontation.
Really, anybody who's played college sports looks back on it, with a fond memory. These guys will have played, like you said, for 3 different coaches and not had a lot of wins. What's the lesson? What do you send these seniors off with? Is it sort of a lesson, a life lesson? What did they need to get out of their experience here at KU?
First of all, their experience is not over.
True.
Okay, so I would like them to walk out of here with a good taste in their mouth. So if all of a sudden on Saturday night, all those 900-game losing streaks and all that other stuff go by the boards, and you're partying on the field after the game, that's what they're going to remember. They're going to remember the camaraderie with their teammates. They're not going to. You don't focus on the bad things. You remember the good things. You focus on the good things. And there's still a couple of opportunities for some good memories yet to be created. Now, philosophically, which that question was more a philosophical question.
It was.
No, philosophically, I think that they're leaving here well-rounded young men. And I think when you go to school, okay, the biggest thing that happens when you go to school is you grow up. And growing up with just good things happening doesn't really prepare you for life. What prepares you for life is when you have to deal with good and bad, and how you're going to persevere when things are bad, and how you handle when things are going well. And they've certainly had more than their share of negative things that happen, but I think that to walk out with your head high, I mean, you'll be a much better person down the road.
And Arthur, there's also aspects about being a college athlete that doesn't matter how the results on the field. I mean, is that something you can appreciate?
Well, one thing here that I think that I have to get ingrained throughout the system with players current, future, and past is this can't be about who you played for. This is what school you played for. You played for Kansas. You didn't play for Weis. And it's got to be about Kansas. It can't be about a coach. And I think because there's been a number of coaches, it's been very eclectic and segregated, okay, because it's always stereotyped or grouped with the coach. And I'd rather, by the time I'm out of here, have gotten that stigma out of the way and just have people, glad that they went to Kansas to both matriculate and play football.
Charlie, you talked about getting the seniors to buy in. How big do you think Dane Chris' role was in that? Do you think?
I think probably the most significant of the 4 fifth-year guys by far, although I think that all 4 of them have handled themselves wonderfully on and off the field, especially off the field. But I think that Dane coming in, providing that it just wasn't his leadership, it was, this is the way you're supposed to act. This is the way you're supposed to carry yourself. This is what the expectation should be. And when you see a guy like that, he's there's a slam dunk that he's going to be a success in life, regardless whether playing football or doing something else, because he's got that special something about him that people want to follow. It's tough to create leadership. People are inherently leaders or they're not. You can't fake leadership. Players will see right through it, just like people in life see right through it. But he's a natural.
All they went through, Dane not having this success, he hoped, you hope, anything like that. To some degree, same for Mike and Anthony and the whole bit. I mean, do you get the sense that even without that success, they consider themselves to be Kansas guys? Not just we played for Weis, but we played at Kansas?
I think that all 4 of those guys will always have a warm place in their heart for this school. I don't think any of them regret coming here. And I think that all 4 of them will, as years to come, will always look at themselves as, I'm glad that I spent that year there. Would they have all 4 of them would they will all be first team All-Americans. That's what everyone else does, right? They want to be undefeated in first team. That's what you aspire to. But I think that being said, I don't think any of them regret, being part of this institution.
There's only a couple of games left on the schedule. Have you started to talk to some of these seniors about maybe going to the next level or starting preparations for that, given any?
December. I talk about that in December. Just like when my coaches want to, start talking about the off season, I say we'll talk about the off season when it's the off season. Right now we're talking about Iowa State. So I then continue and tell them shut the hell up. Okay, we're going to talk about Iowa State. So let's keep. That's what your next question is going to be on, right? It's going to be on Iowa State.
Well, I was going to ask you if there's anybody else on this roster that it may still be their last game. Is there any sort of possibility that may be the case?
I mean, in addition to
most
of the guys whose eligibility is up, that's the ones. In other words, I've gotten to the point now in the roster where I can take a full recruiting class, and I don't have to get rid of anyone to do that. So for all you recruiting gurus, I have as many spots as, I can take a full class plus 2. Because I can count 2 backwards. So I know you've all been trying to figure out the numbers. Okay, so the numbers, I can take as many as 27. And I don't have to get rid of anyone with eligibility left to do that. So might there be some guys that decide to graduate at the end of this year that are fourth-year guys that are redshirt juniors. Yeah, there's a couple that might do it, but usually those are guys that aren't playing anyway and have decided that football isn't the way to go, and they want to go get a job and go start making money, which that's why you go to college. I wouldn't know who they are at this time because I've really talked to everyone just to ask them initially what their goals would be, to see if anyone is playing that off the bat and off the top, and no one's given that indication at this time.
Of all this, the group of seniors that's been here through all that we've already talked about, Tobin's been in the spotlight because he switched positions. Same with Bradley and his performance. Tanner, started all those games. What about a guy like Greg Brown? I mean, in some ways, I feel like maybe Greg's had one of the hardest jobs here and also been one of the quietest guys. Is that fair? I mean, to be the lead corner on a
Well,
tough
first of
team?
all, he's not quiet. I hate to give you the bad news, okay? So you have him wrong right off the bat. Maybe he's quiet around you. Well, the one thing you have to understand, in this conference,
Yeah.
playing corner is a miserable job. It's like being a defensive coordinator, because every week, you got guys that, you got quarterbacks that are slinging it for 300, 400, 500 yards, and you got some top line receiver coming line up in front of you every week. So, I mean, it's a really tough job. Now, on the flip side, okay, not knowing where this is going, if he aspires to play on Sunday, they all get to see him. So they don't have to project what he can do. I mean, they get to watch him. So I think that, he'll probably have himself a chance. And what happens, what he does with it's going to be up to him.
With how important the run game has become, how's the development going with some of the younger offensive linemen?
Well, you'll notice like Luke Larson got a little time in the game the other day. I know sometimes guys like that just go unnoticed, but we've started to sprinkle in more and more to get a little taste, to get we call it get your feet wet, where you just get a little bit of game action. Obviously we have a couple of guys like Randall and Aslam who've been playing every snap in the game, close to every snap in the game. So you don't count those guys, but there's been times this year where Martin's played. Now Larson's playing some, and Lewandowski's moving along nicely, but Lewandowski's behind Tanner. And for me to take Tanner out, kind of a rough. That'd be kind of a rough decision. Just like taking Marangeli out would be kind of rough too.
Is that when your linemen are at their best, is when they're not being noticed?
Well, that's the whole goal when you're a lineman. The whole goal is for no one to know who they are. Because if no one knows who they are, that means they're probably playing pretty well. The only time you notice them is when they're getting beat. You don't notice them when they're blocking people. You notice them when they're getting beat. When you watch Tony running down the left sideline, you're not looking at Tanner's block. You're looking at Tony running down the left sideline, So you notice them when somebody's running around the edge and sacking the quarterback. That's when you notice them. Or if there's a run getting blown up in the backfield, that's when you notice them. So, it's probably of all the positions, the one where anonymity is the key to success.
I know you take a lot of pride in being able to put your personnel in the best possible position and what they do best, but when you're
But
but
that was a statement on the butt, okay.
when teams know you're going to run, and you all have been so heavy on the run, how difficult has that made your job over the last few weeks when you don't really have a lot of other options and teams know that that's what you're going to do, but you're still finding success? I mean, is it getting more difficult by the week?
No, it's kind of challenging. That's kind of, I look at it, Josh, it's almost exactly the opposite for me. I'm fired up for Monday to figure, okay, how are we going to run it this week? Because they know we're going to run it, we know we're going to run it, but you got to stay one step ahead of the posse. Because if we go, let's say we take last week's game plan, where you rush for 400 yards in the game, well, let's go put it against Iowa State. We would get the crap kicked out of us. They would dog us. Because they're gonna, they would have answers to those things. Now, that doesn't mean you don't run those plays. You have to figure out a different way to run them. you know, you still have the plays, but you have to, you know, it's called window dressing. You know, dress them up, but, you know, you still want to, at the end of the day, you know, be able to do the things you're best at. So, we're gonna a whole bunch of window dressing. It was a big healthy order of it dialed up on Monday, you know, so we got a lot of it.
You accurately predicted that Tony would be night and day with that brace off. Is what he did the other day a sign?
You know, his right ones.
You know, is what he did the other day a sign that you were right? I mean, is
No, that's what I thought that Tony would be able to do with how people were zeroing in on trying to stop James Sims. I think if you did it without James and Tony alone, it wouldn't be quite so easy. You know, I think that it's a compliment to the guys up front, but it's a compliment to respect that they have to pay James too, because what are you going to do? Just let him run up the middle while Tony's going to the outside? You know, it's a compliment to both of them.
With another one possession game this last week, how close is this team to winning those games? I mean, or is it just a couple plays away?
Well, I felt that the offense, with the fact that we held them down in the second half on the scoreboard to just field goals, I felt that after Michael's run on 4th down, yeah, we should have put them away in regulation. You know, as if we would have, like on the second play, you know, if you go back and watch the second play, you would, if you really looked at it, you'd see that I'd be very annoyed, and you would know why if you went and really watched it. Okay, because you know the play really should have been a touchdown. Okay, now everyone wants to yell at me for, you know, throwing fade routes in the end zone, but go watch the play. That's all I'll tell you. Just go watch the play. The reason why you call those plays is because you think it's going to lead to a touchdown, which, if I couldn't have diagrammed any more sure slam dunk touchdown than that one, you're going to have to show me one. But that being said, after 2nd down, I had enough confidence in my team to run the ball to the right. If we got the 1st down, fine. But if we didn't, I was going to have the ball in the middle of the field so that the field goal kicker could hit the ball down the middle of the uprights, which is what he did. You know, so that being said, I must trust our team. Because if I didn't trust our team, I'd go for it on 4th down. You know, and hey, it didn't work out. And we score a touchdown, they get it to 3rd and 10, they make a play on the post, now they're down there, they score, they come back and score again, and we don't, and we end up losing. But I mean, the players got to know that you have confidence in them. Because once you show the players that you don't have confidence in them, you're done. You're done.
How hard have they been fighting this year? I mean, it just seems like there's such an improvement this year.
There's been a few games I've been disappointed. You know, I was disappointed in Oklahoma. I was disappointed in the second half against Kansas State. You know, I was disappointed in the second half against Baylor. And obviously I was disappointed in a bunch of those fourth quarters at the end, you know, when we had chances to win. Okay, but that being said, you know, they're going against a top 20 team and on the road where everyone says we can't have it, we stink, we don't have a chance, can't play with them. We're supposed to lose by 100. And somebody forgot to tell all our guys. They didn't get the memo.